On the second night of Pesach, which of course in Israel it begins Chol Hamoed, the second day of Pesach in Israel isn't a Yom Tov day; it's a weekday holiday day. Now we start the count of the Omer. And the Torah tells us that on that night and the subsequent morning, the Omer sacrifice, the Omer offering was brought, and the Torah tells us from that day you begin to count. You count 49 days to the 50th day, and on the 50th day is the holiday that we call Shavuos. 49 days, 7 weeks, and we count those 7 weeks. There's a discussion among the poskim whether in today's world, since we unfortunately do not have the temple, whether in today's world that mitzvah is a Torah commandment still or a rabbinic commandment still. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the poskim hold that it is rabbinic. The Rambam, interestingly, still holds that it is a Torah commandment because obviously he feels that there is a twofold element to the mitzvah. Yes, the primary element in the Torah is the count from the Omer sacrifice, the Omer offering on the second night, the second day, prepared on the second night and brought on the second day of Pesach, and it's a count until the bookend sacrifice that was brought on Shavuos. However, the Rambam must clearly hold that it is also a count towards the holiday itself of Shavuos, which we're not given a date for in the Torah. As a matter of fact, if you're familiar with the calendar, because before the calendar was set mathematically, the potential existed for the month of Pesach, the month of Nisan, to have 29 or 30 days, and the next month, Iyar, to have 29 or 30 days. So depending on how it came out, 49 days hence, Shavuos could either be the 5th of Sivan, technically, or the 6th of Sivan, technically, or the 7th of Sivan, technically. In the set calendar, it always works out that it's the 6th, but the Rambam holds that it's a count to the holiday. From Pesach, you count the 49 days, and on the 50th day is Shavuos, the holiday of the acceptance of the Torah. But again, mostly we feel as a practical halachic matter that it's a rabbinic commandment, doesn't make it unimportant. It just potentially gives us certain mechanisms that we can use if necessary that we're really not going to get into. But we count. Mitzvah lemimne yomei, mitzvah lemimne shvuai. There's a mitzvah to count the days, and then once we get to day 7 and beyond, to count the weeks too. And so that's how we do it. Let's say on the 12th day, we count Hayom Shnei Masar Yom. Today is the 12 days, Shehem Shavua Echad v'Chamisha Yomim Omer, which are 1 week and 5 days in the Omer, and we go that way from day 7 all the way to day 49. Obviously, day 1 through 6, there are no whole weeks yet. We count at night. There's a whole discussion whether you absolutely must wait until it's completely dark or you can do it earlier after sunset. The reality is that the Omer is very easy to forget. The easiest way is to go to shul every night. Unfortunately, that's not happening at the moment. But even if you don't go to shul, the easiest way is to attach it to Mara that you daven every night. But it's independent of davening. The Omer stands by itself. The only thing is, Shema, we often we daven Marav early, than perhaps is absolutely night. And so we say Shema later again at night, but that's something we're used to. We say it every night. The Omer is easy to forget, so it's a good idea to have a reminder and to attach it to davening and to do it perhaps even at the same time every night, but we count it at night. If you forget to count at night, so the next day before sunset, you can count and then continue the next night with a bracha. If you forget a day entirely, in other words, if you forget a night and you forget the entire day and the next night comes, then you continue to count, but you don't make a bracha because you broke the chain. the count can happen in any form. You can just say it's 12 days in the Omer. That's why there is a practice at night before you've counted. If someone asks you what day of the Omer it is, you say, yesterday was 11, or yesterday was 8. That way you don't accidentally say, oh, today's the 12th day of the Omer. Whoops, I just counted and now you can't make a bracha for that night. You certainly can, the next night, continue with the bracha. Some would tell you always when you say the day of the Omer so you don't make a mistake, always say what yesterday was. I personally think that doesn't make much sense. I mean, if it's 8 o'clock in the morning and somebody says, oh, what day of the Omer is it? Well, yesterday was. No, just tell them what day of the Omer is and be careful at night not to do that. But either way, some people will always habituate themselves to always say what yesterday was, not to get into the problem. And of course, the bad rabbinic joke about the guy who was asked what night of Hanukkah it is, and he said, well, yesterday was 4. Okay. That's in terms of the actual count. There's discussion, what if at night you're writing a letter or writing an email, and you write, people often would date their letters, not only in terms of what day on the calendar was, but what day of the week in the parsha of that week. And many would write the day of the Omer because it's a significant marking of the day, and there's a whole discussion. What if you do that at night? There's discussion, what if a kid becomes bar mitzvah or somebody converts between Pesach and Shavuos? Do they say brachos because they're coming in the middle, even if they did it before they were bar mitzvah, because they were practicing, as a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old certainly does these things and practices. Do they continue with a bracha? Those are interesting questions we're not going to deal with now. When it comes to the days of Sfiras Omer, the days of the counting of the Omer between Pesach and Shavuos, so again, the primary issue is the actual mitzvah of the counting of the Omer. However, Jewish history has overlaid, unfortunately, a different perspective, a different focus, and a different context when we talk about the days of the Omer, days of mourning, days of mourning observances, starting with the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva in the aftermath of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, continuing with events that occurred in this period of time, specifically the Crusades and great tragedies that befell the Jewish people. And so on the calendar, it's a day that comes with mournful overtones and observances, as I said, national observances of mourning to whatever degree. And when we say, oh, the Omer, honestly, we generally don't mean the count. In discussion, I'm saying, we generally don't mean the count. That's obvious. Yeah, you count the Omer tonight, tomorrow, etc., etc., etc. But when we talk about the laws and the restrictions and the observances of the days of the Omer, that's what we're talking about. And so we will touch upon those as we continue, perhaps every day, or maybe not every day, but we will touch upon those as we continue. Have a good day.